Hey guys, this is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com, and we're going to be breaking down the 5 highest rated recruits still on Michigan's board for the 2024 class. Before we dive into that, I want to invite you guys to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today. For $99 for 1 year, that gets you premium insider recruiting information, team information, basketball recruiting, NIL, transfer portal, and so much more. Plus, you get to be part of a great message board community over on the Fort with more than 8,000 unique individual users. Come join the discussion today and get the latest on Michigan recruiting and more for $99 for 1 year. All right, guys, so like I said, we're going to be talking about the 5 highest rated 2024 recruits still left on Michigan's board. Now, Michigan already has 24 commitments this cycle, which is pretty much close to a full class, or what you would traditionally consider as a full class. Usually the number's right around 25, give or take 1 or 2. But this year's class could go up into the 30s. How Michigan's going to make room for that? Well, you have NIL that can cover some scholarships and things of that nature. Michigan's just also losing a lot from the roster. So they are going to navigate the waters and probably take around 30 to 33 in between that number. So there's still some big targets out there. Obviously, June was a very busy month for Michigan. But again, not everybody has made a commitment. So we're going to be talking about 5 top 100 prospects that Michigan's still in the race with. And that list begins with Justin Scott, 5-star defensive lineman out of Chicago, St. Ignatius, the number 9 overall recruit in the country and the number 2 defensive lineman nationally. 6'5", 310 pounds, can play all over the defensive line. Michigan really likes him as a nose, but he can definitely play the 3, he can play the 4-eye. Even though he's a 310-pounder as a high school senior, this is a kid that's extremely athletic. He was actually a basketball player turned football player. He's really light on his feet. Some schools even thought about using him as an offensive lineman just because he's a dancing bear out there when he's in the trenches on the offensive side of the ball. But Michigan absolutely loves him on the defensive side of the ball, and it's easy to see why. He's, again, extremely quick for his size. He's powerful. He's a guy that's really long, and he just takes up a ton of space, man. I mean, he's going to free up linebackers to make plays, but he's also disruptive enough to make his own plays. He's like a souped-up version of Kenneth Grant, but not as heavy. So, yeah, I really like Justin Scott as a player. Obviously, everybody does since he's a 5-star prospect. As far as his recruitment, Michigan was thought about as, the 3rd or 4th team in this race heading into official visit season, but Michigan did a fantastic job on his recent OV. The Wolverines built a lot of momentum. After that visit, I wrote that if it came down to the Midwest schools, I felt like Michigan would have that momentum. And it's looking like the preference is for Scott to stay in the Midwest. His family would really like him closer to home. He's really close to his mother, who seems to prefer one of the local programs, and I think Michigan has the advantage over Notre Dame and Ohio State. With that said, Miami is still a big factor in this recruitment. They are the leaders on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. Obviously, it's further away from home, but the Hurricanes are very NIL friendly. The thought of playing in a warmer climate down in Miami is definitely intriguing to Scott. So, we've seen Miami win some recruitments they maybe weren't supposed to win here in recent cycles with the rise of NIL. So that has me still pretty concerned about the Hurricanes. But Michigan is definitely trending up in the recruitment for Scott. Next prospect we're going to talk about is Ryan Wingo, a 4-star wide receiver out of St. Louis University. Wingo on the cusp of being a 5-star on the industry ranking, ranked as the number 27 overall recruit nationally and the number 7 wide receiver in the country. So going into official visit season, it was basically Georgia and everybody else. I felt like Michigan was lucky just to get Wingo back on campus for an official visit. But look, he's been to Michigan 3 times. He has a really good relationship with Ron Bellamy. Obviously, the offense isn't super pass happy, so that's something that's being negative recruited towards Michigan. But at the same time, I think he, again, has a good relationship with Bellamy. I think he's really familiar with the program. I just think he likes the feel of Michigan. The longer this one goes, the better for Michigan. I'm not very optimistic that the Wolverines will create the same amount of momentum they're currently creating with Justin Scott. I still think Georgia is the team to beat in this recruitment, but Michigan's hanging around, and that's all you can ask for an elite playmaker like Ryan Wingo. Next, we're going to be talking about Aaron Scott, top 100 cornerback out of Springfield, Ohio, ranked as the number 4 cornerback in the country and the number 39 overall prospect nationally. Scott made an official visit to Michigan for Victor's Weekend. He turned around and went to Columbus for an official visit to Ohio State this past weekend. Ohio State is the heavy leader on the On3 recruiting prediction machine with a 95.9% chance of landing Scott. Obviously, Ohio State makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of pressure for Scott to stay and play for the in-state Buckeyes. You know, Michigan hasn't won a lot of head-to-head battles against Ohio State recently, but that started to change this cycle with the win coming against Ohio State for Jordan Marshall, another top 100 prospect from the state of Ohio. Arguably Michigan's biggest win of the cycle. Jordan Marshall, a true elite back that was down to Michigan, Ohio State, and Wisconsin and sided with the Wolverines in surprising fashion. Right now, I think Michigan has really made this a toss-up. Scott is taking some time over the next week or two to really think about things, discuss things with his family. But I think Michigan did everything it possibly could in the recruitment of Aaron Scott. They built tremendous relationships with him, his family, the people around him. Steve Klingskel was the right man for this recruitment all the way. They brought him in for Victor's Weekend, which means he had a chance to bond with the rest of the 2024 commits. You know, if he chooses Michigan, he'll already have familiarity with a lot of the guys in the class, including Jacob Oden, who has become his close friend and would be, you know, his partner in crime in the secondary. So, yeah, and all the Ohio kids, you know, that Ohio movement with Luke Hamilton and Marshall, who I mentioned, and Ben Roebuck and Ted Hammond, all those guys were heavily involved in recruiting Scott over the weekend. So this race is probably too close to call right now, but Michigan is right up there with Ohio State. This is obviously one of the most interesting recruitments left in the entire cycle. Right, we're going to head over to the wide receiver position again and go on to Gatlin Bair, top 100 prospect out of Burley, Idaho, the number 40 overall prospect in the country and the number 11 wide receiver nationally. Look, Gatlin Bair is a phenom, man, when it comes to having world-class speed on the track. Ran an insane 10.15 100 meter. If you don't know how fast that is, you should remember last cycle, a lot of people hyping up Nicholas Harbaugh as a potential Olympic sprinter. The fastest time that Harbaugh ever recorded, from what I remember, was a 10.28. So Bair running a 10.15 and beating Harbaugh head-to-head on the track this offseason is just extremely impressive. Michigan's never found a true replacement for Xavier Worthy, who entered the transfer portal. Gatlin Bair is that guy. He has game-breaking speed, and he's not just an athlete playing receiver. He runs really good routes. He is a true wide receiver that can be an absolute game changer and arguably add that missing element to Michigan's offense. He can be just an absolute game breaker for Michigan. So a lot to like about where the Wolverines stand right now. In fact, Michigan has the lead on the On3 recruiting prediction machine with a 71.9% chance of landing him. Right now, I think this is a 3-team race between Michigan, Oregon, and Boise State. Boise State will get him in for a multi-day unofficial visit. They've done a really good job of selling him on being a hometown hero. Oregon is very involved, has a lot to sell as well. But I think Michigan is in a really good spot. I think they're leading on the On3 recruiting prediction machine for a reason. They just have to keep chipping away. Obviously, Michigan has won a big recruitment out of Idaho in the past, landing Colston Loveland. Loveland's high school coach, Cameron Anderson, is now the head coach of Bair at Burley, so that connection can definitely help as well. Another thing in Michigan's favor is Bair wants to be a strength and conditioning coach when football's over. His father's already a strength and conditioning coach, and so that Ben Herbert presentation on this official visit really moved the needle. So Wolverines in a strong position here. Only downside with Bair is he is taking a 2-year mission upon graduation, so technically a 2026 recruit. Lastly, we're going to talk about Zaquan Patterson, top 100 safety out of Miami's Chaminade Madonna, ranked as the number 3 safety nationally, the number 72 overall prospect in the country. Miami with a commanding 93.3% lead on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. The Hurricanes have been recruiting him forever. They are NIL friendly, and they are the local team. So a lot of signs pointing towards Miami for obvious reasons, but Michigan hosted him for an unofficial visit this past weekend. It was the first time Patterson came in with his mother. Patterson had been there previously, but his mother's first experience in Ann Arbor was a really, really positive one. I think the staff made a huge impression on her. I think Michigan continues to move the needle for Patterson. Remember, the Wolverines already hold a commitment from his teammate, top 100 cornerback Chris Ewald in the 2025 recruiting class. They would love to play with each other at the next level. And I think Michigan is, outside of Miami, is the team that's right up there for Patterson. I really believe this has turned into a true Miami-Michigan battle. Now, there are 2 ways this could go in terms of a decision timeline. Patterson has talked about taking his recruitment into December. If that happens, then you could see Patterson make his official visit for the game against Ohio State. The longer it goes, I mean, it's still positive for Michigan because it gives them another chance to impress Patterson and his family on an OV and for them to win on the field. Now, Patterson has discussed potentially moving up his timeline to August, but that's okay too because Michigan's coming off a momentum-filled weekend, and it seems likely that they'll get him back on campus for the barbecue at the Big House in July. So if he does make it back, that would be a huge positive for the Wolverines. So another Miami-Michigan battle here for Patterson. Those are the 5 highest-rated recruits still on the board for Michigan. Do you think Michigan will win any of these recruiting battles? How many do you think they'll win? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to the Wolverine.com for $99 for 1 year. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for free.